Our third activity in lesson 4.5 using our point slope formula is actually what we call changing point slope form to standard form. There's two things I want you to be able to take out of this. One is that you will be able to actually take an equation that's written in point slope form and change it to standard form. The second thing is that you will learn how standard form equations are written. So you'll have two learning targets for this video. I know you haven't seen standard form before, so I want to start with, I'm going to show you the characteristics of standard form and some examples. After I reveal and go through the characteristics, I want you to pause the video and write the characteristics down on your paper. So let me show you the characteristics. There is a list of them, and you do want to have that written down. The first one was standard form equations. We have an x and y on the same side of the equation. Secondly, there are no fractions or decimals in a standard form equation. The only number you can divide into the numbers in the equation is 1. The number next to x is positive. It has to be positive. And lastly, the numbers next to x and y are not 0. So let me show you some examples here so that you can copy these down with the standard form list. These two equations here, 3x plus 5y equals 10 and 5x minus y equals negative 3. These are equations that are in standard form. Notice 3x plus 5y equals 10, x and y are on the same side. You do not see any fractions or decimals in these equations. That's a nice thing about them. There are no fractions or decimals. The only number you can divide into the three numbers in the equation is 1. So I have a 3, a 5, and a 10. I can divide 5 into the 5 here for 5y, and I can divide 10 by 5 and get a nice even number, get a nice answer, an integer answer. But 3 divided by 5 does not work. The only number I can divide into 3, that I can also divide into 5, that I can also divide into 10 is the number 1. It's the same thing with this equation. I have 5, and now there's no number in between the minus and y, so I could sneak the number 1 in there, and then I have negative 3. Again, the only number you can divide into the 5, the minus 1, and negative 3 is 1 itself. So that's what you're looking for standard form. The number next to x is positive. This is positive 3x, positive 5x. That has to be positive. And lastly, the numbers next to y, x and y are not 0. Now, that what says and x and y are not 0. In other words, you can't have an equation that says 0x plus 0y equals 10. It won't work. So there's a couple of examples of things that are not in standard form. All right, the first one here, negative 4x plus 3y equals 8. This is not in standard form because the first number starts with negative 4. So this one is not in standard form because x is negative. The second equation here, this is not in standard form because 2, 6, and 12, they're all even numbers. I can divide that by each of those terms by 2. So that means this is not in standard form. And the last equation, it's not in standard form because there's my fraction 1/2. So those are not considered in standard form. So at this point, pause the video, write down what you're seeing on the screen right now, the standard form, the 5 characteristics, copy down the examples that are standard form, and copy down examples not in standard form. So now is the time to pause the video and write this down, please. Okay, now going into changing an equation into standard form. So here are two equations. They are both in point slope form. And I'm going to show you how we change those to standard form. What you have done before is you've taken an equation like this and you have changed that into slope intercept. That is how we're going to start moving to standard form. So I will do the distributive and I write down y minus 1 equals, and I distribute, I go 7x plus 5y. Oops, my mistake. 7x plus, and 7 times 5, that would be 35. Nothing has changed. And I want to put this in a slope-intercept form, so I will add 1 to both sides. And I now have y equals 7x plus 36. That is slope-intercept. That is my slope-intercept form. I want to get there first, okay? Slope intercept. That's the form we go to first. Now we'll use this to get into standard form. In standard form, let's look at our characteristics now. And I have those hidden up here underneath this rectangle. Okay, we have to get x and y on the same side. That's the first thing we want to do. So what that means is on this equation up here now, I will take and I will go minus 7x on both sides of my equation. I'm going to now get x and y on the same side. And so I look and I say, well, y, and I have a negative 7x. Always write the x first. So it's minus 7x to positive y, so plus y equals 36. All right, so now I have x and y on the same side. I'm checking for fractions or decimals. There are none. That's good. Is x positive? No, it is not. If x is not positive, then we have a way to change that. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take and I'm now going to multiply everything by negative 1. I will multiply everything by negative 1. How do I do that? Well, I'm going to take and I'm going to put parentheses around both sides, and I'm going to put with a negative 1 out here. And I'm going to show that I am multiplying both sides of the equation by negative 1. Negative 1 times negative 7 is positive 7. Negative 1 times positive y is a minus y. And negative 1 times 36 is negative 36. So now I have an x that is positive. That's a good thing. Fourth thing, 1 is the only number you can divide into the numbers. Let's see, I have a 7, a minus 1, and negative 36. Let's see, 1's an even number. That's odd. I can't divide by 2. Looks like 1 is the only number I can divide in there. And especially if I have one of the numbers that is 1, that will probably be it. That's all I have to look at. And x and y are not 0. When those I have a 7 and a negative 1, so I'm in good shape. So now, this is now in standard form. So here it is. I'm labeling this for you. It would be a good idea at this point to pause the video again, and why don't you write down the work I have shown here. Take a moment, pause the video, and write this down, please. Okay, let's look at the other equation that I have over here. Now I have a fraction in this one on the outside. So this one will actually show us a couple other things you get to deal with. Again, distribute the fraction to both parts. And I'm just going to copy y plus 5. We're going to try to get this into slope-intercept form. So I have negative 5x, negative 5/4 x. I multiply here. And then again, numerator, negative 5 times negative 2. Negative 5, numerator, times negative 2. That's a plus 10. 5 times 2 being 10. Negative times negative is a positive over 4. Negative 5/4 x plus 10/4. Okay, now we're going to remove the fraction immediately because the second rule up here says we don't want fractions or decimals in this. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to, at this point, I'm going to take every term times the denominator that I see. In this case, it's 4. So I'm going to multiply everything times 4. All right. So now I'm going to distribute 4 times y is 4y plus 20. 4 times a y and 4 times 5. All right. Then I have over here, I'm going to take the 4 times negative 5. That's a negative 4 times negative 5 is negative 20 over 4 plus 4 times 10 is 40 over 4. So now I have a chance to eliminate my fractions. The left side I'm going to get rid of, and it says 4y plus 20 equals negative 20 divided by 4 is negative 5, and I need an x. Forgot my x. Sorry about that. So x plus 40 divided by 4, that's 10. All right, now that I have removed the fractions, because I'm going to standard form. If I was going to slope intercept, it wouldn't matter. But since I'm going to standard form and I've removed the fractions, now I can start working with getting things x and y on the same side and combining the numbers. A lot of you like to combine the numbers. That's what I would do here. I'm going to then take and I'm going to go minus 20 on both sides. I'm going to put the numbers together, minus 20 and minus 20. So go like this. And I have 4y remains on the left side. 20 minus 20 cancels. equals, there's nothing under the negative 5x, so I put negative 5x. Positive 10 minus 20, that's a minus 10. Last step, I want to get this 5x over with the y. So now I'm going to add 5x to both sides. Add it to both sides. 5x plus 4y, they're different terms, so I keep them separate. We'll write the x first. Negative 5x plus x, that cancels. It leaves a minus 10 over here. So now looking at my rules for standard form. X and y on the same side. Yes. Fractions and decimals are gone. Third, is x positive? Hey, it's positive. I don't have to do the times by negative 1 because x is already positive. Is 1 the only number you can divide into it? 5, 4, negative 10. Looks like the only number I can divide into those is 1 because 5 and 10 are both divisible by 5, but 4 isn't. 4 and 10 are both divisible by 2, but 5 isn't. So I think I'm good there. Lastly, x and y are not 0, and we have a 5 and a 4. So now I have, this is now in standard form. So we have finished that problem. Okay, so lastly, here's your answer. Here's the assignment I want you to do. I apologize for that getting out to be about 11 minutes, but I wanted to make sure that you had enough detail. So page 223, numbers 4 through 6, and 20 through 27. When you finish, check your answers with my answer key, and then turn it in. Thanks. Let me know what I can help you with as you work.